Selling newspapers in the saloons of North Hibbing, flying bombers during World War I for the Royal Flying Corps, operating a bus line, and managing the Chisholm-Hibbing Airport for a number of years. He is one of the pioneers of aviation in Minnesota.
Here we go. Just pull it now. That sign will...
Imagine driving down I-35 at 65 miles an hour when you suddenly find yourself lying flat looking at the roof of your car instead of the road. That happened to Duluthian Harry Munger.
I was coming back from Minneapolis. It was about 4 o'clock, and all of a sudden I was driving along with about 65 miles an hour with cruise control on, 65, 68, and boom, just like an explosion in the car.
The explosion was the driver's side seat falling abruptly into a full recline. Fortunately, Munger was not in heavy traffic at the time. He quickly pulled himself to a sitting position and got his wildly veering GMC Suburban under control.
I don't know. I can't tell you how I did it. But I brought it to a stop, and the car was swerving all over the place. And I thought about this before. What would happen if the seat broke in a congested traffic area?
Munger had had plenty of time to think about this before because his seat had already broken twice. In the previous cases, the seat broke just as he got into the Suburban. He was able to jerry-rig it until he could get it fixed. What happened to Harry Munger has happened to hundreds of others across the country. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has been investigating complaints since 1988 regarding 1985 through 1991 GMC Suburbans and Safari minivans and Chevrolet Suburbans and Astro minivans. We were able to obtain a Highway Safety Board report from June of 1992, which indicates they had already processed at least 100 complaints at that time with dozens of injuries, all with near identical complaints reading, "The bolt securing the seat back of bucket-type seat shears apart and causes the seat back to fall suddenly backwards to the fully reclined position." This inter-office General Motors memo, which we were able to get a hold of, admits that there's a problem with the strength of the bolt. It says some of the trucks with bucket seats may experience a bolt failure in the recliner bracket. It says to correct the situation, the bolt must be replaced. But here at the bottom of the memo, it says, "No bulletin is planned." What that means is General Motors has no intention of warning its dealers so that they could in turn warn their customers of a potential problem. Meanwhile, many feel the seat poses a disaster waiting to happen. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6. Dr. Peter Lukowski still has serious back pain from his accident.
I many times not only get the pain in the lower back and in the hip and down the leg, some tingling in the toes, which is a paresthesis that develops from that impingement of that nerve, and then groin pain down in here where you get up, it wants to give out on you.
His GMC Suburban is drivable again after his garage installed a new seat. But Lukowski, a Duluth chiropractor, still worries.
Yes, I'm very concerned that if that seat breaks again, and each time I get in the vehicle, I'm concerned about that particular problem. I could not only re-injure my back more seriously than it is already, it could injure possibly a pedestrian, or I could get involved in a serious automobile accident, thereby involving other people innocently.
And he probably has reason to worry. NHTSA recently upgraded its study to what's called an engineering investigation, which is the last stage before any recall would be ordered. They are looking into the design of the front bucket seats in 1985 through 1991 Chevrolet Astro minivans, Chev Suburbans, GMC Suburbans, and GMC Safari minivans. There have been hundreds of complaints filed in which the bolt holding these seats upright has sheared off, allowing the seat to fall backwards into a fully reclined position. The broken bolt has been responsible for dozens of injuries, many serious, including an accident in Lamarck, Texas, in which a driver lost control of his vehicle after the seat broke and struck a pedestrian. and another in San Diego, California, in which a driver suffered a severe back injury resulting in permanent paralysis.
When one is taken unexpectedly and put into a position of stress like that, it tears the small fibers, the muscle fibers in the back. It also creates and shifts the bones, creating an impingement or a pinching on the nerves.
General Motors says it's completely aware of the situation, but won't do anything until the Transportation Safety Administration orders a course of action. In the meantime, GM says if you're concerned about the safety of your vehicle, you can take it to your dealer to have it looked at, but they won't promise to pay for the cost of any repairs. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6. While wet weather has drowned some fields in the Northland, it's been good to the berry crops in Carleton County. Here at the Finks Berry Farm in Carleton, the strawberries are as big and juicy as they've been in years.
Everything is red, sweet, really good, and we can pick to our heart's content basically out here. We've got so many strawberries. So.
Beldie Fink says the cool weather early in the season was good for the crop, and with their sandy soil, the abundant rain has been no problem. She says the crowds have been great so far this season, and the ball field has been an excellent draw. The Finks turned this farm field into their field of dreams about a year ago. They wanted a convenient place for their kids to play ball. But since they built it, the people have come from all over the county to play and to pick.
It's kind of convenient, you know, for some parents. They come watch kids and afterwards go and pick berries. That's what I'm going to be doing.
The Finks find their ball field draws people who then can't resist picking berries while they're there.
Oh, they're much fresher and it's fun to pick, and if you get a good day, it's a lot of fun with your neighbors.
The sun has shone for just about every day of the strawberry picking season so far, leaving the Finks batting 1,000. They just hope their string will continue. In rural Carleton, Barbara Riles, News 6.
We had a report of a body being found on the shore of Wisconsin Point, and investigation and search revealed identification on the body as that of Joe Kuth.
It's not a semi. That's right, you'll be welcome with open arms.
Here's something people never think. We had hoped to get some more items, but we have been getting gradually small numbers of things in, and we sure could use another truckload of water and some of the other basic necessities.
It's been amazing. I mean, the phone's been ringing off the hook. We had phone calls last night, but the outpouring of public support's been phenomenal all across the Midwest as well as in Duluth.
That's the same story other local agencies are telling today after last night's telethon for flood aid. President Clinton spoke from Washington at the start of the program asking people to pitch in, and they did. By most accounts, it was a record-setting fundraiser, almost $2 million raised in just a few hours. Duluth Salvation Army alone received more than $1,000 this morning in donations.
Well, I feel real bad about all those people. I wish I could do a whole lot more. I really do.
Many of us take our drinking water for granted, but for some of the areas affected by recent flooding, drinking water is just not available. Residents there are having to depend on donations like this one from a local youth group in Ely. And while bottled water is a welcome sight, officials say the most effective donation is cash.
As we could buy by a truckload of water rather than having to ship this a couple of times.
and manhandle it a few times. We can buy semi-loads at a time, so cash is really the best thing to get.
Money raised from last night's telethon will fund American Red Cross flood relief programs which will be very much in demand as the flooding continues in some areas and receding waters uncover the devastation left behind. In Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
You know, from my perspective, I don't think so. I think we could reach an agreement today or tomorrow. You know, I mean, it's, you know, the union would forget union responsibilities to its members, and that was a point that we made to them that we would not do anything that would jeopardize our contract negotiations in the future to, you know, where we were at. We would work together on the things we could work with, and when contract time came, that we'd be in a mode to negotiate a fair and equitable contract for them.
So I feel that relationship that was established in 1992 has been very fruitful and very helpful in these negotiations. It is our desire to have the employees return to work, a desire to secure the long-term viability of the pellet company. We have that common goal.
You're all right, man. You're all right. That's all it takes. Do you access to information? Yeah. 2 pages. Oh. Yeah, do that there. Go on. There you go.
They ain't gonna get one person together, so we're not doing it.
Hard rest of Chase, don't you? All right, see you in the roll.
By the community in this area. One of the things...
and this will include, obviously, those providers in the Duluth area and hopefully as many providers as wish to participate in the formation of this entity throughout northeastern Minnesota.
Something that those of us are very excited about being a part of. We have a great degree of optimism in keeping their costs low and in getting good results. And the whole thrust of the ISN development will be to focus on those.
Barbara, the water is slowly beginning to recede, but the need for volunteers is not receding with the cresting waters. And that's the same story for many areas along the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. In fact, officials here say the help needed now to clean up is just as important as the help needed earlier to sandbag. Many people are helping out in distribution centers such as this one run by the Kansas City Salvation Army. Here, families in need can come in and get relief such as clothes, food, and emergency supplies. There are also supplies such as lumber and building materials to help these families recover from the disaster. Well, joining me right now is Major Ron Gordon from the Kansas City Salvation Army. Tell us a little bit about the system you have set up here.
Yes, Stephanie, we've tried to approach the situation from a standpoint of psychological need as well as material need. We've discovered that a lot of the folks who are involved in the flooding have had a lot of stress because they haven't gotten into their homes for so long, and they really don't know which way to go. They're waiting until they can find out exactly what the situation is. Some of them are just now going back into their homes. It's important for a number of them who are totaled out that they're going to go back in and see that those trailers are gone and they can set their lives in order and start going in a new direction. And some of them are first going in today. But we've had people coming in who are really quite stressed out, very disoriented, didn't know exactly what they were going to be doing next. So we've designed a system where they're getting actually 9 shopping sprees. They can come in here and they can shop for the clothing, they can shop for the food. A single person, for instance, gets 100 items of food once and 30 items of clothes once, and then they get a grocery order for going to a grocery store to shop, and they get an order for one of our thrift stores to shop.
So this really does help out, but how can volunteers help out?
Well, we have, because we have this type of a system, we have a lot of need for people going through and sorting, such as the folks are doing right now, going through the boxes of food that are coming in, sorting them into types of food so people can find what they're looking for. Picking up the clothes as they go through some boxes that we haven't gotten on the racks yet and hanging them up on the hangers. Keeping the building clean, helping the people with taking things out to their cars, all kinds of things. I mean, unloading trucks, carrying furniture.
Well, Barbara, some of the volunteers may actually look a little familiar to Northlanders. We actually have a group of Duluth JCs here helping out. This is Rick Brewer from Duluth. And Rick, tell us a little bit about the job that you've been doing here so far.
Well, right now we are working at one of the distribution centers. We're stocking the food shelves primarily for the flood victims who come in and need food in our area, but there's also clothing, furniture, household goods. We've also got some JCs out back unloading vans when people are bringing donated items in. And we've got other JCs who are on the road, kind of with these mobile food wagons going around feeding people who are in the construction process, rebuilding some of the damaged properties. So we're keeping busy.
Why did you get involved on a personal level?
Well, the Duluth JCs already work with the local Salvation Army, and we think they're a wonderful organization. We were glad to have the chance to work with them. I guess just seeing the damage that's been done to this area from overhead, when we saw the damage on the ground, it was overwhelming. I can't think of anything that really describes it. So we're glad to be able to help, but I think it's important to know that there's still more that needs to be done. The water's going down, but there's still a lot of people who need food, clothing. The rebuilding is just beginning, so we're just trying to be part of the help.
Okay, thanks a lot, Rick. Well, Barbara, the Great Flood of 1993 has made this summer one many Midwestern residents may never forget. And for those volunteers spending their time helping those living along the Mississippi and Missouri rivers, their time here may also never be forgotten. Reporting from Kansas City, Kansas, Stephanie Guadian. Now back to you.
The reality is we may not be able to, whatever we do as a community, and that's psychological, psychiatric help, all the things, jail, all the criminal justice things that we can do, counseling, OFPs, restraining orders, everything we do just may not be good enough. But we've got to try, and we've got to change course as a community.
You get that from family, but to get that from people that you don't even know, you're just like, wow, where did all this come from? It's almost like the flood. Where did the flood come from? You're just overwhelmed by that, and you're equally as overwhelmed by the generosity and the good kindness, good-heartedness of people.
The soulfulness and the feeling comes through, and the soul comes through, and that's what people like about the blues.
Whether it's the jump beat or the soulfulness of the music, the blues are more popular than ever. Thousands braved the Northland's wet weather today for the 5th annual Bayfront Blues Festival. Officials say despite the rain, this year is the biggest by far.
It's doubled in size each year up to this year, and now we're looking at 70 or 80,000 people this weekend. So it's gotten very big, as you can see by walking around. Even though we haven't peeked out in attendance today, the park is jammed.
We're having a wonderful time. We drove up from south central Wisconsin, and we're just having a great time. Never been to Duluth before.
The free 3-day festival is a big draw for tourists and a big boost to the local economy as well. Last year alone, the Bayfront Blues Festival generated more than $2 million, and that is nothing to be blue about.
They may have been in the water swimming or cooling off or something. It didn't sound like it probably was an accident that they were pulled in or fell in.
Okay, we're going to go back by the ambulance.
And I seen two small children on top of the bridge looking over the edges. I thought they were just watching the water. And had I come by sooner, maybe it would have been a different story.
Crime Stoppers of the Northland is a new program aimed at preventing and solving crimes by getting the community involved. People can now call a tips line and receive a cash reward for their information.
So we're challenging the communities, the businesses, to work together to help take the responsibility for a safe Duluth and a crime-free Duluth.
Crime Stoppers of the Northland is part of an international network. The Northland program is modeled after one in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. People with information leading to the arrest of a person responsible for an unsolved crime, the recovery of stolen property, and/or the seizure of illegal drugs may receive cash rewards up to $1,000. The Crime Stoppers program allows people to remain anonymous.
They will stay anonymous. We will then check out the information that they've given us. If it turns out to be beneficial, then we'll turn it over to whatever agency's working on it.
If you were here in the Twin Ports area on Toxic Tuesday, June 30th, 1992, you probably got one of these. It says, you may be a member of the Duluth Superior Chemical Spill Class Action, and your rights may be affected by this lawsuit. What it boils down to is whether you asked for it or not, you're involved in litigation, and you don't even have to go to court. Duluth attorney Mike Haig explains how it works.
The court doesn't want to be faced with 10,000 or 15,000 or 20,000 claims. So for the sake primarily of efficiency, everyone is invited, everyone who is of the class of people affected is invited to become part of the case.
The class action came after a group of Duluth and Superior residents filed 4 lawsuits in federal court alleging they were harmed by the spill. Named in the suit are Burlington Northern, GLNX Corporation, owner of the tank car that ruptured, and Novacort, the manufacturer of the chemicals that spilled. The suit is seeking several $1 million in damages, including cleanup costs, evacuation, and medical monitoring. In Duluth, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
I don't know what's happened. I don't know if she's run away with the carnival or if she's found some friends in Hibbing or Chisholm or Duluth that have let her stay with them, or if something really terrible has happened and she's been abducted. It's the not knowing that's so frightening.
Since the night of August 6th, Rochelle Daniels has had to deal with a lot of fears. It's been nearly 3 weeks since she's seen or heard from her 15-year-old daughter. Danielle disappeared from the St. Louis County Fair in Hibbing after telling her mother she was going to look for a bathroom. Since then, Michelle has been feverishly working to find her daughter. Her days are spent making missing posters and nervously awaiting that one phone call which could bring news, either good or bad. Although Danielle's mother has been busy wallpapering the town of Eveleth with posters like this one, both Rochelle and local authorities know Danielle could be in another state by now. So far, Northland police have had few leads and are classifying Danielle as a runaway.
Knowing runaways, they can hide. I mean, other children or people that age kind of hide them out so they don't get found if they're runaways.
But Danielle's mother says she knows in her heart her daughter is alive and will soon be found.
What would you want to say to her right now?
I want you home, honey. I love you. I miss you. We can work whatever problems we have out. The most important thing is I just want to know you're alive and you're safe and that everything's okay.
In Eveleth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
Neighbors say it was like living in a war zone last night when authorities told them to lock their doors and stay in their homes after a man began shooting a gun in his backyard, then holed himself up in this house with his father.
Everyone was just hiding in their basements, waiting for the whole thing to be over with.
Authorities negotiated with 42-year-old Donald Polson through the night, asking him to come out of the house. He repeatedly refused, growing more and more agitated. Sometime before 3, just as the St. Louis County SWAT team arrived on the scene, Polson's father came out of the house. Seconds later, without warning, Polson himself came out and started shooting. Mark Hill lives across the street.
I heard about maybe 30 rounds went off. It's exchanged, automatic gunfire, you know. And
were you concerned about your safety or your family?
Yeah. I was lying on top of my wife, my daughter. We were lying face right flat in the dining room of our house, you know. And it was a scary thing, you know.
When it was over, Polson was dead, but not before he fatally shot 47-year-old officer Irvid Clemens. Clemens served on the Carleton County Force for 23 years. He leaves behind a wife and 2 grown children. Sheriff Dave Sebo says he not only lost a deputy, but a friend as well.
I think he was a very honest and caring man. Everybody that I've talked to tells me that. And I know that for a fact. I worked a long time with him.
Authorities say the gunman, Polson, had a history of mental illness and firearms offenses. He suffered from paranoia and schizophrenia. He was committed to the state hospital for 6 months in 1992 after he fired at cars in his neighborhood, but was released 2 months later to his father's care. Today, Sebo expressed frustration with a system that allowed things to get so far out of control.
I have an officer that's dead. I think there's a lot of frustration in the law enforcement community. This is not the only time that we've dealt with this type of a personality, and it's becoming more and more of a problem.
The flags are flying at half-staff in Carleton County today, flying for Deputy Irv Clemens, who was shot by Moose Lake resident Donald Polson. Most people in Moose Lake knew Polson had mental problems, but most were aware that as long as he stayed on his medication, his diagnosed paranoid schizophrenia was under control. But Donald Polson had not been taking his meds for a month before he fatally shot Deputy Clemens and was himself then killed by law enforcement agents.
It's a shame. A shame that something couldn't be done before this, but Human Services says their hands are tied. They can't do anything if he refuses to take his drugs, you know.
Polson had been ordered by the courts to take his medication in January 1992 after he was convicted of reckless use of a firearm. Court records show Polson had a history of firing weapons indiscriminately in his neighborhood. Carleton County Judge Dennis Seitz committed Polson to the Moose Lake Regional Treatment Center for 6 months, but he was released after 2 with orders to stay on his medication.
And the head of the hospital to which the individual is committed has the right under the statute to release provisionally if an individual no longer meets the criteria. And in his case, as is the case with many of these people, you get them on the medication, and then they're no longer the danger to themselves or others.
But after the 6-month commitment was up, whether Polson was hospitalized or not, the court could no longer legally force him to stay on his medication. His 75-year-old father, to whom he was released, said Polson stopped taking them drugs a month before the shooting, and nothing he nor anyone else said could make him start again. Sheriff Dave Sebo is concerned that there are more and more people like Polson with potentially dangerous mental problems being released to society without adequate monitoring.
A lot of the people are being put out of the institutions, and they're putting people back into society, and there is no way of monitoring these people when they go off meds.
That's a major concern of many law enforcement agents, as the Moose Lake Treatment Center and others similar institutions follow federal guidelines calling for the mainstreaming of people with non-dangerous mental disorders.
The experts point out mental illness is not a crime. They say the problem lies in the monitoring of people with diagnosed psychiatric disorders, and they say that's an area that needs a lot more attention. At the Carleton County Courthouse, Barbara Riles, News 6.
And staggered by the winds of police brutality, you have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friend, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. When we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and singing the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Discovery, you own approximately 3,552 shares of Minnesota Power stock. Also on information provided through Discovery, that you also own approximately 1,208 shares of Minnesota Power stock above and beyond your ESOP stock ownership. Yes, that was Minnesota Power stock. Correct, yes. So the total amount of Minnesota Power stock.
In terms of budget outlay,
here in St. Louis County. Obviously, after 18 months, there are many things that are now falling between the cracks. Though we've had an acting administrator over that period of time, we are reaching the point now where we really need an administrator on board.
We don't like to give concessions, but we do, you know, because we realize that we need to have a job, and you know, we're all in this together. But you know, doggone it, no, they're making money, and it's and they don't want to give us anything back, no, you know. And I don't,
community support up there, donations on the picket line, and expressions of support from business community and the community as a whole has been really good for us, and that helps keep people's spirits up as we go into our 5th week.
At times get under a time crunch for how fast they have to lower their lagoon levels for the water, the spent water treatment line. They're under a contract to get that emptied by a certain point in time.
From what we heard today, I think we've got a really good contract.
Yeah, we stuck it out and we got a good contract, I think.
And we're concerned with school children getting back and forth to school, the regular motorists getting back and forth wherever they're going. So it's designed to bring people to the business community and to encourage people to drive safely.
has ever said that we urge the federal government to perform the study.
$2.8 million in interest is staggering. Staggering coming from someone that says that it isn't fair to ask for anything above and beyond hard costs. It's unfair to those taxpayers out there. It stinks.
These kinds of problems, if they reoccur, the state has promised, we're going to buy a $500,000 piece of equipment that you're going to pay for. That's just not fair.
The budget, it seems as though it's a little bit more than it was last year. Usually that happens because of inflation and that sort of thing. Generally when that happens too, revenues are raised. Like, we get revenues from sales tax and property taxes and a number of other state sources. So I hope that there's not going to be a proposal to raise taxes. We're already getting mandated by the state to pass along a 10% valuation increase.
Go to work?
200 steelworkers tried to go back to work in Keewatin at 3 o'clock this afternoon, but when they arrived, they were locked out.
As of currently, there is no labor agreement. So under this arrangement, we are refusing our workers to come back to work until we have a signed labor agreement.
I think you are making a very, very grave mistake. You know what this workforce has done for you. I think that it's just a terrible, terrible thing that management would take this kind of an attitude toward the members that we have so valiantly struggled to keep this place going.
Union leaders said they voted to accept a contract offer made by the company on August 7th and end this 47-day-old strike. But the company says that agreement is no longer on the table, but a new offer is. And until an agreement is reached, the company says it's still a strike. The union says it's a lockout.
We are here to report for work, and we are being unlawfully denied the opportunity to go to work after having accepted National Steel Pellet Company's final offer. And we will pursue that in a court of law.
One by one, workers asked to return to work.
George Casper, Mr. Catonius, can I come back to work? As soon as there are agreement between Local 2660 and the United Steelworkers of America, National Steel Pellet Company, you'd be more than welcome to come back to work and get us back in operation.
Charles Lockhart.
George Casper has worked here for 26 years.
A little bit shocked. I thought maybe the company would be more lenient because the other basic steel people like Hiptac and Evlith, they seem to be working, and we only want basically what they got.
Today's change of direction by the union comes under the threat of a plant closure. National Steel is actively searching for alternate sources of taconite pellets.
Are you afraid that the lockout is an indication of something much worse?
Something down the line, could be.
Cap on his noodle while he was talking to her on camera.
Steelworkers collected their strike defense fund checks from the local union hall today in Keewatin. Compared to their normal wages, it's not much, but it will have to do for now.
A lot of the people felt that they cooperated with the company and that they've been betrayed.
As was the case yesterday, today steelworkers reported to the plant for each shift, and each time they were turned away from the gates. The union says it should be allowed to return to work after accepting an August 7th contract offer from the company. But National Steel says that offer was withdrawn and replaced with another one. As far as they're concerned, the strike is still on.
And, you know, I guess I'd throw the shoe on the other foot. If the company made that proposal August 7th, why isn't it good enough now? I mean, what changed in 3 weeks to a month that would make that proposal no good to the company?
Company officials aren't saying, but one thing that's clear, the tone of this dispute has also changed. The threat of a plant closure forced steel workers to return to their jobs in order to save them.
We were making no progress with the company in negotiations, and we feel they left us no other choice but to accept the proposal they laid on the table to us. And, you know, we were under the impression that we'd be working today and yesterday afternoon.
Meanwhile, legal action is underway. Union officials are filing a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board, alleging that the company is engaging in an illegal lockout. Now off the picket lines, workers plan to hit the unemployment lines on Monday. In Keewatin, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
A little less trash each year, which is great. Millions of cigarette butts that they're trying to get rid of, and some of the stranger things that we find, but for the most part, it's gone well.
We're considering a project that involves the Pittman line, which is part of Reach All, and they're looking to bring that line back to Duluth and create 37 jobs in the community and hopefully some more.
I mean, we're all working much harder to stay still. Dads are often absent, and those kids, I think, are lacking not just, investment in things like health, they're lacking time. And I think that one thing I do show is that there is enormous payoffs to putting in that time with your kids.
This is the only hospital in all of Pine County. It houses an acute care facility, a nursing home, and an emergency room. The only emergency room between Moose Lake and Mora. Community leaders say it's important to keep this facility open, and they've put their money where their mouth is. This month, county commissioners voted to provide a $50,000 grant, plus a loan of another $50,000.
While it is a lot of money, I hope that the benefit derived from that money outweighs the value of that $100,000, and I think it will.
Clark Grable took over as hospital administrator June 1st. He blames past problems on bad management. The hospital had been run by a management team out of the Twin Cities. Shortly after he started, he discovered major billing flaws, which had already lost the hospital over $100,000 in unrecoverable funds, and accounting procedures that were continuing to lose money.
We weren't collecting the money that we were billing, and it wasn't being followed through. In other words, it wasn't being managed properly.
When Grable took over, the hospital's debt was close to $300,000 and growing. As of this month, it's been cut almost in half, and Grable says new accounting procedures will continue to make money. He says the hospital is viable and should be kept open. Grable says Pine County needs a hospital and can support one. But like any business, he says the North Pine Area Hospital has to be run efficiently in order to make it financially stable. Taxpayers in Pine County are counting on Grable's ability to do that. In Sandstone, Barbara Riles, News 6.
We want the blinders to come off, that these beatings do occur and will occur in the future. The gang's control by the use and threat of force.
The latest victim of what could be another gang-related beating is a 14-year-old Superior girl. Because the girl is a juvenile, details of the case are sketchy. However, officials will say last night, 3 teenage girls attacked the victim, beating her severely. The young girl suffered serious blows to her head and face. She may have also been burned.
I would hope it would shock anybody's sensibilities to see 3 or 4 teenage girls beat up on another teenage girl. It certainly shocks mine.
And while this latest beating may be shocking, the presence of gangs in the Northland is no surprise to local officials. Police say gang activity is on the rise, and it will take more than extra squad cars to keep the streets safe.
We need to get together as a community. The policemen cannot do it themselves. And if the community decides that they will not tolerate it, that's the best opportunity we have to stem the tide of this gang involvement that the kids are going through.
Medicare Part B will cover flu vaccinations. And let me tell you why we think this policy is so important. The flu virus has not been snuffed out for good in this country. We still lose 10,000 to 45,000 Americans per year to the flu. These are mostly older Americans whose lives could have been saved with a simple flu shot.
Don't worry. 1.5 on time or if not.
And we feel that the USS Des Moines will be which is a part of history. It'll be used as an educational tool. It is definitely, in order for history not to repeat itself, we have to learn from it.
Feeling strongly that history should not repeat itself, the Northland Vietnam veterans today put $5,000 on the line. Backers say the general public is also anxious to help fund this project.
Once we tell people about the educational aspects of the project and the encampment programs and the tourist attraction and the economic impact, which is very significant, generally most people are in favor of the project.
Initially, this vessel would be berthed at the port terminal. The goal is to acquire a permanent berth at 40th Avenue West and use it as an educational center. Right now, donations have brought the nonprofit project within striking distance, with nearly half of the $750,000 needed to bring it to town.
It'll take that much to prepare the ship for tow and to bring it to the Twin Ports. Our project is actually a $1.7 million project, which includes improvements to the berthing site and final preparations for tourism, advertising to promote the ship, and so forth.
See the big one?
We need to make a few gains regulatorily, legislatively, to maybe make life a little simpler for our people, but we feel we have something to offer. It's the fastest growing
segment of traditional agriculture in the United States right now.
I have the same concerns that those three councilors have, that it's not really going to do what we want it to do completely, but I'm willing to give the compromise a try just to get something done. The streets in this city are horrendous. We have to do something, and if this is a way of getting through the first year and showing what can happen and how much better it is for the people, then let's give it a shot.
It's a recreational trail I want to keep it open for anybody, whether you're a hiker, a bike rider, cross-country skier, snowmobile use in the winter. Just an all-around trail that everybody can use.
I think we're also rather upset at the district's decision to spend nearly $4,600 on a mailing such as this, which supposedly clarifies issues, but really in fact causes further confusion at a time when the district does not have money for textbooks, for supplies, and for materials for students. They seem to have, I think, a real mistake in their priorities. They'd much rather spend the money fighting with their teachers than on materials for students to work with. And we find that hard to understand.
Can you say how much it costs?
You know, it could break in 5 minutes. They could get this thing done. It's that close.
The union made the company a comprehensive proposal, which they have under their review. Additional talks are going on at a higher level between the union and the company, and we expect to be in touch tomorrow.
That we have to forget yesterday and look to the future. And the neighborhood's very excited. The kids are very excited. They've already started being up here and spending some time up here.
Both of you, and kind of a symbol of what you're doing for our community. Thank you.
Jennings, our Director of Low-Rent Public Housing, and Kathy Helmquist, our Special Projects Coordinator. To try to encourage people to pick themselves up by their own bootstraps and head off in new ventures and new fields and through educational training and whatever training is necessary to be able to become truly self-sufficient.
I think it's going to change my life completely, and I want to turn it around, and I think this is a way of doing it, by getting more training and joining these programs that I'm involved in.
Superior officials say their message to juveniles is clear. Do the crime, do the time. 17-year-old Joshua Montgomery made his initial appearance today in the Douglas County Courthouse as an adult. Montgomery is facing a number of charges, including recklessly endangering safety, car theft, and harassment. He is a suspect in an October 18th shooting incident at the Mariner Mall. Police believe an argument between Montgomery and another Superior teen led to the firing of a sawed-off 20-gauge shotgun. The intended victim grabbed the barrel of the gun, directing the single shot to a sign on the wall.
We've been worried about juveniles carrying weapons, and here this one happened to be a loaded gun, and it happened to go off in an area where there's a lot of people, and so there really can't be anything more serious than that happened. Thankfully, nobody was injured or shot, but that requires a real serious response by our office.
Authorities say this type of violent juvenile crime is on the rise in the Northland, but it will not go without punishment.
Sometimes our hands are a little bit tied in the juvenile court system, but if kids are doing crimes at the age of 16 and 17 that are no different than what 18 and above are doing, they're going to face the same consequences. And if a few have to go to prison or a long, long jail sentence to get the message out to the rest of the kids, that's what we're going to do.
Montgomery is being held on a $5,000 bail in the Douglas County Jail. A preliminary hearing is set for next Wednesday. In Superior, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
A business that is kind of the wave of the future. They will make a system. They have contracts with Hughes Electronics and with Detroit to make a system that's used in recharging electric automobiles. So we expect this company will be around for some time.
And I think by proposing the curfew to roll hours back, it gives our police department just one more tool to be able to enforce the law and to be able to keep the streets of Superior safe.
If you hit the parents in the wallet, in the pocketbook, it's going to make them more aware of where their kids are and what their kids are doing late at night. Certainly it isn't a catch-all, but it's certainly a step in the right direction.
Hunters from all over the country are heading for the Minnesota woods, and along the way they'll be spending a lot of money. According to a national survey, a lot of money adds up to about $300 million. Figures from 1991 show that $55 million goes for food and lodging, $34 million for transportation, and another $110 million on equipment.
If everybody figured out what their venison cost them per pound, they wouldn't go hunting. So it gets pretty expensive.
Minnesota's rural areas are bringing in the dollars as hunters flock to the woods, stimulating sluggish economies. Close to 7,000 jobs are supported through the hunting industry. Northland businesses are prepared to accommodate those hunters.
Some clothing, gloves, socks, blaze orange hats, scents, grunt calls, licenses, entries for our big buck contest, munchie food, that kind of thing mostly.
Hunting is undoubtedly a part of Minnesota's culture, but as experts say, it also goes unnoticed as an important part of the state's economy. And as more than 500,000 Minnesotans don their blaze orange and head out to bag that prize-winning buck, they don't appear to be worried about what the experience is costing them.
That's the price you pay for the male bonding.
Derek Hines, News 6.
When they say, well, if you have a $40,000 house, your taxes are going to go up X amount, not necessarily true. It depends upon which town you live in, which township you live in, which school district you live in.
It appears that he went in there looking for sex, and when it was denied to him, the result was the attack on the employee there at the massage parlor.
I think the original idea of the Christmas City of the North Parade was the fact that we wanted to get a little enthusiasm for the Christmas season. The doors would open and the students would get out and they were all enthused because there was going to be a parade and something different. And then we'd tell them that the president was killed, and for some it just took a while to sink in, and many of them would start to cry.
now. And we are starting off with our Frick is the head coach. Assistant coaches are Connie Halstead and Cindy Harrell. Jerry Swanson. Duluth Jets gymnastic team coached by Joyce Torban.
And marchers and twirlers in this town, they're all winning first, second, and third place awards at all these competitions.
I think these dancers have been walking.
Can't walk that far. That's too far to walk. But if they're 6 or 7 years old, they're surprised when they get to the end and the parents pick them up. I stay with them, and they want to do it all over again. They just really have a good time doing it. So it's fun for me to see them having a good time too. It has a special meaning. I don't think just for us, for everyone watching it, because everyone really gets in the feeling of Christmas in every way, really.
It consists of 40 members, and they well represent Duluth at the Bay December 17th at 7:30 in the evening. Tickets.
Fainted, which was a different challenge. Here, you're challenged by the moisture within the instruments freezing up, because at 32 water freezes, and then valves not moving up and down, and trombone slides not moving. So at some point in the parade, you look down the row, and only certain people are playing. The other ones are still trying to get it to move.
Never seen this many people out there. I think it's got to be the good weather that's brought them out.
Come down and watch it. And don't clap with your mittens on. Take those mittens off so we can hear you clap.
Self-decorated for the holidays.
Matt, and he's looking at their health. What?
I don't know. I know we're very excited about doing it. We've always gone, you know, as a family person and with my kids down watching, and the family, and everyone's really excited about being in it. We're just hoping that the weather will be halfway decent so that no one freezes. But other than that, we look forward to it. Hope it all turns out well, and hope it's something we'll continue doing every year.
Community Spirit, Hibbing Electronics and Hibbing Printed Circuits are leading national manufacturers of electronic assemblies and employ
Books, compliments of the NALC and the USPS. At the same time, they are collecting letters to Santa from the children along the parade route. They wish all postal customers a happy holiday season and encourage everyone to...
Member band consists of a wind ensemble, carts and band, symphonic band, and red and white gray band. A jazz ensemble with a variety of woodwind, brass, percussion ensemble in it. The Duluth East Band has been chosen to play in the Minnesota Music Educators Association.
And constructed through the electronics programs offered at Range Technical College. Santa's Helper is supported by a 3,300 watt generator, which I think would do us some good right now, and an air compressor located in the castle. The castle, displaying flags from around the world, represents the old world. RTC for you, a symbol of the future.
When you sit down for the meal, eat what you like, you know, enjoy yourself, but limit it to one serving. You don't have to have seconds. Part of enjoying yourself is leaving the table feeling intact of your senses.
Road conditions are getting worse. They range from just wet road conditions to packed snow to heavy slush. And people are having a lot of trouble in the heavy slush. The slush is grabbing their vehicles and pulling, and they're losing control and ending up in the ditch.
Traffic was a little bit slow, but whoever came in, they were down here on a mission.
The 22nd, 23rd, the last, full shopping days before Christmas are definitely the busiest for us.
The house is pretty well filled up with boxes and storage stuff and things like that, so it's making it real difficult to chase the fire down right now.
I got mouths to feed. We've all seen the ads, Cub Foods and low prices coming soon. We've also seen Super One's ads claiming Cub Foods will pass on high construction costs to its customers. Meantime, Super Value was claiming to be your neighborhood store. Now it's time for shoppers to decide.
We did extensive research, in fact, painstaking research. We wanted to make sure that we chose the right site, had the right store, the right size. So we do exhaustive research before we build a building, and we just felt that Duluth was the right place for a Cub store.
And if day one is any indication, Cub Foods research may pay off. The store's opening attracted shoppers from all over the Northland.
Two Harbors, that's quite a ways to come down and shop here at Cub Foods.
It sure is, but it's well worth it. I've been waiting for the store to open.
While customers may have been anxiously waiting for Cub Foods to open its doors, competitors have been dreading the day. In fact, 2 stores closed even before Cub Foods opened for business. The closing of the 6th Avenue IGA and the Highland Super Value stores may be a sign of the times. Economic experts say if more large grocery stores such as Cub Foods enters the Duluth area, your local neighborhood grocery store may be a thing of the past.
You might see some continuation of consolidation, and part of that consolidation may be going the route of Cub Foods in the sense that they're almost wholesale outlets as opposed to retail outlets.
Indeed, these large stores epitomize one-stop shopping. You can buy dinner, pick your movie, and fill your prescription all under the same roof. But the convenience may come with a price tag. Fewer centrally located superstores replacing the traditional neighborhood grocery market. In Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6. The plane crash is a devastating blow not only to the family of the victims, but also to Hibbing, a small Iron Range town with a reputation for close family and community ties.
My community really pulled together, very supportive. The Red Cross was there immediately to take care of people, and I'm very proud of my community, and my brother would be too.
Surviving family members were officially notified last night and today. Authorities quickly called together clergy and psychiatrists to help the families, most of whom are still in shock.
The city of Hibbing is shocked at this point because, as you said, everybody knows somebody, and I've just come from some of the families' homes at this point, and they're coping as best they can.
Local social service groups set up headquarters here at the Blessed Sacrament Church in Hibbing, a sanctuary for family members and friends to come and bond together in their time of need. At one point last night, more than 25 family members gathered here for grief counseling. But the volunteers are providing more than just counseling. They're also providing the necessities for day-to-day life.
So we've got food for them. We've got a number of motel rooms that have been donated by different places in town here that we can house people for overnight if they're coming in from out of town. We have clergy and mental health workers on site, and we will continue to do that 24 hours a day until this operation is over, basically to sit down and talk with them and just to be there for them.
It is also important for community members here in Hibbing to pull together. Signs of that are already evident. Local businesses donated food for families of the victims and rescue workers. For many, volunteering their time helps them to deal with the tragedy before them. In Hibbing, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
The twin-engine turboprop would have approached the Hibbing runway from the southeast, but had circled to come in from the opposite direction into the wind. When the aircraft went below the low clouds at only 400 feet, it was forced to fly through freezing rain and snow flurries. The 19-passenger airplane had vanished from radar screens, and the Hibbing Tower lost radio contact at 7:58.
After the law enforcement authorities were notified, the Hibbing Sheriff's Office, the Hibbing Police Department, the St. Louis County Rescue Squad began a search for the aircraft, and I believe that Deputy William Hanigman and his son located the aircraft.
At first, the only access to the crash site was on foot or by snowmobile. Graders and front-end loaders were called in to plow access roads. When rescue crews arrived, they found the airplane on the side of Boy Scout Hill.
The airplane is kind of balancing on the face of a dump, and we have a caterpillar up on top securing the craft with ropes.
Rescue workers cordoned off the crash site and secured the airplane to the side of Boy Scout Hill, where it had broken into 3 large pieces.
You know, the plane is pretty well demolished. It's just, you know, we couldn't even enter the airplane, you know. The passenger compartment, it's just, you know, it's all collapsed, you know, compressed together.
National Transportation Safety Board officials arrived on the scene late in the morning to begin sifting through the site. The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension was on hand to aid the NTSB in their investigation. Slowly, 2 by 2, the bodies of the 18 victims were moved to a temporary morgue at the fairgrounds nearby. A mining crane was brought in to move the plane. The large windup is directly in line with the runway just a mile and a half away. The aircraft crashed just beyond an apartment complex and a nearby mobile home park. In Hibbing, Derek Hines, News 6.
Come down to the realization that presently those companies, those steel companies, can buy the pellets. So it evolves that the company doesn't need the men, but the men need the company.
One of the important things I think having children come and watch how the candy is made is so they see that it's possible to actually do this in their own home and to keep those old traditions alive.
Today in Duluth, tomorrow in Detroit Lakes, and Wednesday in Mankato, and next week.
The rule that we're proposing to amend here was originally written in the late 60s, early 70s, when basically what we were worried about mostly was keeping the smoke out of people's eyes and windows of their homes. What this rule does now is it expands dramatically the number of pollutants that we're regulating.
Basically, they will be able to meet the proposed limits that the agency is setting forth today under this standard, but we would like to see those levels be dropped.
You have to be checked into the system by December 2020. That is not the closing of the system. We've seen quite a few of the initiatives that we've brought forth. We met, they go to dual pilotage, they go to, there's a whole series of events. The mass confusion that exists with any new application has got to cease. Maritime commerce is so critical to the U.S. economy that we can't allow that to be choked off.
What was each staff's base pay?
City Council member Dorothy Bowman is dictating a letter questioning the actions of Larry Hutchinson, the executive director of Spirit Mountain. She is directing him to release key management salary information to the council.
Okay, what are the salaries of the top 12 to 15 staff positions at Spirit Mountain, and what are their incentives?
Yes.
The proposed budget for Spirit Mountain is $2.7 million. Hutchinson's salary, which includes a car allowance and a tax-deferred account, is $85,600 per year. Add on the incentives and you could bank up to $95,700. Mike Gentile holds a similar position at Giants Ridge. His salary, $51,000 per year.
That salary is way high for the city of Duluth.
2 years ago, Hutchinson told Bowman 18 employees were paid extra incentives.
This time, when we met with the authority, both the authority president and Mr. Hutchinson had a hard time recalling how many. It was obvious to me that Mr. Hutchinson did not want to give specific answers. I am the liaison, and I'm the committee chair for the council to the authorities.
To all the authorities?
Yes, the authorities are my committee.
The Spirit Mountain Authority is the last budget issue before the City Council. Hutchinson has until Monday to respond in writing. In Duluth, Chip Wallace, News 6.
Stop the lockout! National Steel! Stop the lockout!
To show the company that we were serious about what we gave the proposal that we gave them on Monday, that we are very serious about this thing and we want to keep our jobs.
So are you optimistic that the plant will reopen?
I'm always optimistic.
And do you get that feeling from National Steel?
No, I don't.
Yeah, there's people screaming for help in the back of the building.
the older
It
people.
was really smoky down the back.
Fire officials say the blaze began in the basement of the Central Hillside apartment building. It quickly spread through the walls up to the second floor. 20-year-olds Rob and Becky Nelson have been living on that second floor for a little more than a month.
I tried to call 911, but the phone didn't work. It burned the wires, the firefighters said.
How'd you feel at that moment, Becky, when the fire alarms went off?
He was pushing me out the door. I was trying to get my shoes on, and we were just trying to get out.
All of the residents did manage to make their way out of the burning 22-unit apartment complex. Many have local rescue workers to thank for their narrow escapes. Without a home, some turn to the Union Gospel Mission for food and shelter.
That's what we're here for, is to reach out to the community, and people know that, and they know what to expect from us, and found their way to our door very quickly.
Local businesses and the Red Cross have also volunteered their time and services to help.
We probably will be able to help you with some clothing today, and hopefully some housing.
Newlyweds Rob and Becky found themselves at the Voyager Hotel, one of many offering shelter to the fire victims. Besides their own safety, the couple worried about the 2 kittens they had to leave behind. Luckily, a firefighter was able to save them, but Rob and Becky must now find homes for their pets. Another worry for a young couple unsure where they'll be living next week.
Because then I just realized, that all this is happening.
Reporting from Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
It's nice to see a pool getting the recognition it deserves in this community, and it's kind of lifting the image of the industry, and this is what we're happy about, those of us in the business.
Look at him. He's retired now because he's older than me. You are going to start for the rest of your life belonging to an agency that belongs to you. For Somalia, thank you. Al.
This, I think, is another experience that we should take note of, is that the cooperation of the Northland that has at this time of year thinks of others. It's just an experience of youngsters that are really caught up in the holiday spirit of giving and want to be of help to somebody else.
That I don't think people really totally understood. People had wrong information. Some of it was intentional on the part of what they call themselves a Friend of Bayfront. Some of it wasn't intentional, but everything, I think, was cleared up last night.
We could have had an outlet mall someplace else in this city. Plus, we could have had a development that was more in tune with the Bayfront. Labor would have been happy. Actually, they would have had 2 developments going. Lake Superior would have been happy. They had had something a little better than having an outlet mall down there.
about 7 minutes or so. 5 of them, okay?
So hurry up and wait.
It'll be about 7 to 10 minutes.
Then the wait grew longer.
590, 95, 200.
We apologize for any inconvenience. Our job is service, and whenever we can't deliver what we're capable of, we're disappointed in ourselves, and we'll try to make sure that problem never happens again.
The rest of it is 400,000 of the 700,000 that we will be paying in sales tax next year. Because a year ago, the legislature passed legislation which requires local units of government to pay sales tax.
Yes. Matter of fact, we first became aware of the entire thing. That was part of it.
And look very seriously at this breach.
In this particular issue, battling the...
Oh, is that right? Oh, that's good. People realized it. We didn't discuss it as a full board.
The irony about it is that the YWCA Kids Corner program, and that's a program that United Way donors support, is a program serving low-income, disadvantaged, often minority youth in the Central Hillside.
The discovery of Luella Letourneau's body crushed any hopes her family had of seeing the Eveleth woman alive again. St. Louis County Sheriff's officials made the grisly discovery last night in a wooded area just south of Eveleth. Behind bars tonight is Letourneau's former boyfriend, Richard Floyd Little. He was charged this afternoon with intentional second-degree murder. Family members and friends say Little had repeatedly threatened Letourneau after she broke off their brief relationship.
He was worried that she was trying to break it off, and he didn't want to break it off, and he had made threats toward her before, and so she was definitely worried.
Letourneau's fears came true. Little says he picked her up at home on December 13th, and then the two went for a drive. Little says the couple began to argue, possibly over their breakup, and that's when he murdered her. He says he stabbed Letourneau a number of times and shot her 3 times, at least once in the head. Friends and family describe evidence they say police told them about.
Told that they'd found an enormous amount of blood, and that's why they had suspected foul play.
Where did they find that blood?
I have a feeling it's out by his house someplace.
On Sunday, December 12th, around 4:30 in the afternoon, Spirit Mountain had its first ski theft of the year. A young man left his gear near the main chalet. 10 minutes later, it was gone. Another person lost her skis and poles at closing time on Monday, December 20th. These are the first of many thefts that will occur at ski resorts around the Northland this season. There will be hundreds of skis stolen and very few will be recovered. The thefts occur very quickly when skis are left unattended. The thieves also like crowded conditions, like weekends or when tickets are sold. Use the ski corrals like Spirit Mountain provides, or find some way to lock your equipment together. Record your serial numbers and engrave some type of identification on the gear. Help stop this epidemic. Call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-974-TIPS or 723-ENOUGH.
Probably we're in over our heads, but 6 months now, having gone by and worked with some of these volunteers. The chief volunteer is George Dimich, and his next birthday he turned 70 years old, and literally this lift was dismantled and reconstructed with a handful of volunteers headed by George. So I've learned a lot, and it's been a tremendous experience for me.
This is Harrison Parker. He's no ordinary test tube baby. When his 40-something parents decided to have a baby, conception proved to be difficult. They tried several techniques, including in vitro fertilization. Finally, they tried a new technology designed for mature women.
The moral of the story is don't give up.
Baby Harrison is the result of a new reproductive technology called micromanipulation. What fertility specialists did was harvest eggs from Harrison's mother, then fertilize the egg with sperm from Harrison's father. But before reimplanting the fertilized egg, doctors did what you can only see with these remarkable close-up pictures of a 6-cell embryo.
So, of course, the embryo here, the zona pellucida, is this layer here.
That's the shell the embryo must hatch out of before the egg can successfully attach itself to the wall of the uterus. Doctors say more mature women often exhibit an impairment in the hatching process, lowering their chances of getting pregnant. To help the embryo hatch out, doctors make a tiny incision on the shell. After that, the embryo is put back into the woman's uterus.
By helping them escape from that shell, we think we may hopefully increase the ability of that embryo to implant and thereby produce a child.
And it offers career women new hope.
Dr. James Sebastian says he's seeing an increasing number of women over 35 who want to get pregnant, but due to their age are having difficulty.
Are in a place in their work where they're now comfortable and have the time to devote that to having a family. Many people initially thought they didn't want a family, but as they get over 35 or 40 and sometimes a new relationship, a family becomes more important to them.
At this lab at St. Luke's Hospital in Duluth, scientists do analyses that will determine if a couple is a candidate for this new process. Harrison Parker, born on January 2nd, is living proof that healthy, beautiful babies can be the result of advances in scientific technology. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
What we have taken on a search warrant is a snowmobile. And it is a snowmobile that we believe we have sufficient evidence to show was involved in the incident.
To the petition drive, that it was needed to get the facts out there in order to make sure that people knew that the developer could go ahead and build the mall on the land that he already has.
this guy doesn't have the lights on.
I'm gonna back into here, so.
Okay.
Many people do not have transportation. It's very difficult to get out on the hillside here with the sidewalks being congested with snow, and of course also the weather conditions that are present here in Duluth.
Just as we're speaking, we're helping somebody in our office with fuel. They happen to be a little bit over income and they're out of fuel. Fuel assistance is one thing we don't question too much because in this weather, because people can, really get into dire straits.
Real fancy. She's got her 2 beads there. She's already got her feather on, and that turned out real nice. But that's a whole...
We have 700 students and we register all of them. They get to pick 4 sessions that they want to attend during the day. And there's 29 sessions offered. So they choose things that are of interest to them and then they register. We did all that back before Christmas.
Only the really good kids are going to get in mine. All the bad ones are going to go wrong.
Nothing else.
Well, that's ridiculous.
In terms of priorities, Michael comes below oil, below U.S.-Soviet relations.
He's
23-year-old Paige Litfin just wrapped the stage play Two Rooms at the Depot Theater. The Dark Horse Theater production closed to good reviews and near-capacity audiences. Paige is a student of drama at UMD. Acting is her aspiration, her goal, her dream.
I'm going to be a student, and that's what I want to focus on. I want to be a good actor.
But while she studies her craft, she also takes any opportunity to hone her skills. That's why she jumped at the chance for a small role in Iron Will. Paige played the part of Iron Will Stoneman's girlfriend. No clips of her were made available, and copyright laws forbid airing any part of the movie other than the clips Disney Productions provide. But Paige's part was big enough to have her name make the credits. Paige says she considers the movie a learning experience.
The movie was great. It was a measure of success that was wonderful, and I really appreciated it, but I'm not a great actor, but I want to be.
Paige knows the road to becoming a successful actor is a tough one, but she feels if she studies and works hard enough, her chances of success are better. And she says she has youth on her side.
The nice thing about it is, you know, I'm 23 years old. I have so much of life left to live that I can want things like this. You know, it's a good age to want to be an actor.
But Paige isn't letting her dream give her starry vision. When she finishes this year at UMD, she intends to pursue graduate school so that she's prepared to teach if she doesn't make it as an actress. But those who know Paige say her will is as strong as iron, and if she sets her mind on being an actress, we should watch for her name in lights. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
The whole country's rooting for you. Look at this. Iron Will saves the Icelander and takes the lead. Iron Will races to save Mother's farm.
Very viable thing, and in the end it's going to be a business decision. It's going to be how many patients per day we have, and if we make the commitment in this community through our insurance carriers and through our business and government sources, I think we can accomplish it. I think by working together we can do it.
In Douglas County, we've offered a focused care provision, again, expressing the requirement. Do we have any other questions? You mentioned the, I believe it was one, somebody mentioned they do not have their doctor's package. The doctor. Yeah.
We've got 548 skaters from 7 states and Canada, and it is by far the most numbers we've had at the competition.
Oh, it's just incredible. There's nothing like that in the world. Those seconds just last forever. Just keep going.
that also will add to, it'll give us and to society. I have talked about programs to strengthen parental responsibility, to help parents learn how to parent, including learning how to discipline their children out of love instead of anger or frustration, and about doing this through the privatization of social programs.
You don't throw the whole thing out and create a new bureaucracy, which is, and number three, currently,
you can't do it all in the sin tax, because eventually you're going to get what's called adverse selection. The tax becomes so high, it achieves its purpose. Less people buy the product. And if less people buy the product, then you have less revenue with which to do with whatever you want as a public policy.
the proposal that I had, and I'll briefly get into it, we have an assigned risk plan and can afford the health coverage for the rest of my employees if I hire that individual.
Primarily, it'll mean that more people will hear about us, and that's really the most exciting part about it to us. New Moon is quite small, but we've grown quite a lot in the past year, and it's all been through word of mouth. And
the governor is using money and spreading it around to buy off his critics and to try to cover up his failures. You know, that's what Michael Jackson did. He bought off his accuser, and hopefully it will go away.
The course is, I'm not the best person to talk about the course content, but the class is American Indian history. So it's the history of this country since the white settlers first arrived, taught from the Indian perspective. Okay, so it includes primarily there's lectures, but there's also videotapes that we broadcast out also.
You cannot, if someone experienced symptoms just after the spill, they cannot ignore the possibility of long-term complications and should be monitored. Should be monitored. Absolute conclusion.